Hello. So let's quickly talk about div and span tag. We This is where we left off in our previous class on HTML5 semantic tags. So let's just quickly talk about div and span tags. So basically, if you followed our last class, footer has meaning, is a semantic tag. They have meaning. Section tag has meaning. Article tag, as sidebar or aside, header and nav. But the div and span tag that we'll be talking about, they don't have meaning. In fact, they are referred to as meaningless tag. But funny thing is, they are the most used in any websites. Like I showed you in the last class of our Jumia website. It's still opened, I think. Yes. If you go you try to inspect their page, like we did in that page, in that site, in that class, you will see it has a lot of div tags, so many. Basically, there's literally or almost no website available that does not have div tags and span tags, considering they are referred to as meaningless tags. And why is that? I wouldn't know, but basically they are meaningless tag, but they are the most used. And how are they written? This is a div tag, div. I think it stands for division. In my head, I feel it stands for division. Basically, why are they so powerful? They are powerful because of two things which will be discussing in this class. This class is about div and span tags, but what makes them powerful is because of CSS, and you can target a whole area or a whole section with, you can wrap them in a div tag. Let's say, for instance, we have a paragraph. Let's put some lorem inside. I like to separate this so that we'll be able to see very well. Separate it, and let's copy this paragraph a little bit too. Now, if we want to, in CSS, or let's make it 3. If you want to work, let's say we want to make some adjustments or edits or to beautify this paragraph, we will need to target them individually. But with a div tag, we could simply wrap them all inside a div tag, like this. Just copy everything and paste, and wrap them all inside a div tag, and any style we apply to this div tag using the classes, which we'll be discussing soon, would affect every paragraph inside the div tag. That's what makes them very powerful. You can enclose so many things inside of them and put a uniform style that will affect every of its children. The same thing when you talk about a span tag. Let's get back to the browser, to the code editor. When you talk about a span tag, for instance, you have this heading H1, then you say we have hello world. Let's say you want to make a style, or style your document is such that hello would have a different color, while world will have another color or another typography or something. That is where span comes handy. You could just wrap the word in a span tag like this. and you can now give specific styling to just the word. And if you notice, let's refresh our document. You can just give a specific styling to the word because it is wrapped around the span tag. So that gives you more control. You can even give it its own class or ID and edit it differently. When we get to CSS, we'll see how very powerful the div and the span tag are and why they are used most frequently. But the beauty of it comes out mostly, like I've been repeating. I think I've repeated myself like a zillion times already. When you are actually doing this, styling your document with CSS, and that's where the power of span and div tags really come out. But seeing it normally in the skeletal form of our HTML, you'll be like, what is the use? We could have used normal our headings and other semantic tags to do all these things. But when you can wrap so many things under something as this division tag or div tag that is so meaningless, as they call it, it gives you more power and control over each element in your document. So this is that about this simple div and span tag. So I don't know that to do it in this way. Okay, let's just jump right into it. We could easily talk about classes and IDs in this class. So let's just, so that we'll be able to finish up quickly. So now, classes. What are classes? So what are classes? Classes are general selectors. For instance, still again, the beauty of this comes out in CSS. Let's say we want to select all, let's say classes, more than one element in the, the easiest way is multiple elements in your document can have same classes, while IDs are unique selectors. Classes are general or global selectors, while IDs are unique selectors. For instance, you could put a class for paragraph. You could just name a paragraph, or let's call it para, so that will be fast. Then you can come here at the same time and call this, give it a class and call it para, and nothing bad happens. You can even come and give this one class para, and it's awesome. But there comes a problem when you now give it an ID, para1, and let's say you come here and give this one an ID also, an ID of para1. You see, the code editor immediately gives you an error because its IDs are unique selectors. They cannot be, unlike classes that a class can, several elements can have the same class name and you can edit them uniquely through CSS, but IDs are unique selectors. So every element, an ID is unique to a specific element. So if we want this error to go away, okay, let's see in our document what happens. Okay, it won't show. If it was okay, it won't show, but basically there's an error here. There's an error here. The only way to get this out, let's say we have to rename this to be para2, and the error goes away because class IDs are unique selectors while classes are global selectors. So if there's something to take away from this last segment of this classes, you can use multiple, you can use one class name to name multiple elements, but you cannot name multiple elements with one ID because ID are unique selectors while classes are global selectors. If you are able to understand this, but basically where you see this really being used is in CSS, where you'll be able to call up a specific element with its ID or class and make edits and style to it. So that's that about that. If you're able to understand it, then you'll be able to proceed to the next class, and we'll be doing our project. But if you don't understand it, no problem, you can always ask me and I would expatiate and clarify things the more. But basically, don't forget, you can use one class for multiple elements, while ID is per element. You can't use, they are unique to one element or unique selectors. Another element cannot have the same ID as a previous element, just like we just saw that this element, even this h1 tag cannot have the same ID as this paragraph tag. If we try it, we get an error. See, para 1, and you notice there's an error. There's an error because it now reads that this is the one that first added, then this one is the error. But basically, there's going to always be an error because IDs are unique selectors. You can't use one ID for more than one element. An ID is unique to a specific element, while classes can be used for multiple elements. If you can take that, basically that's the summary of IDs and classes, and I hope you are not confused further. Thank you and have a lovely time.